student public affairs program in America by the Intercollegiate Broadcasting System.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Falcon Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and welcome to Falcon Spotlight here at Cerritos College, Norwalk, California. At this time, I'd like my guest to please introduce himself.
Hey Rob, good morning. My name is Franky Carrillo.
Cool. Now, one of the things I like to do is get my guests to tell their story and, let my audience, get to know who they are and stuff.
Yeah, thanks Rob. First of all, man, it's great to be here. It's nice to finally meet you. So my story is, I have many stories, but the one that I want to share with you today is, I am what they refer to as an exoneree. Hi everybody. When I was 16 years old, originally from the city of Lynwood, I was wrongfully identified and then eventually wrongfully convicted for a crime I did not commit. Sadly, a man by the name of Donald Sarpy was murdered, and a crime I had nothing to do with, but ultimately the jury came back with a guilty verdict, and I was sent away for life. 20 years into my incarceration, it was a miracle, literally. Attorneys, advocates, people who wanted to help me finally receive justice in my life, came into my life, and they reinvestigated the case, and ultimately, the new evidence that would free me came to light. And almost 5 years ago, I had a final hearing, almost like a mini trial, and I was finally released. And so I'm now a full-time student at Loyola Marymount University here in Los Angeles. I'm a father of two, and life is good, man.
And so to those that aren't aware of what's prison like, tell me about the process and stuff. You got to pursue your education still.
I did, so prison was definitely a place that people should not want to go or end up, obviously. But so my situation, I was there unjustly, and the opportunities that were there, I took advantage of them. So they had a GED program, they had vocational classes, they had self-help. But besides what they were offering, what the prison was offering, and it was very limited, it's really about self-determination. And so if you really want to go out there and pursue these things, you can go to the library and read a book in your cell.
And sometimes people get maybe not everything from TV or movies is the same as how it is in real life. Any misconceptions?
Yeah. I think the biggest misconception is that they kind of give you the blood and the violence, and show you a riot somewhere on some local news, whatever. But I think what they failed to sort of point out is that the people we're talking about here are human beings who had a bad day in their life or multiple bad days and then ended up in prison. These are fathers, these are mothers, these are people who need a second chance. And so yeah, I think that the aspect of that, there's other titles than just a prisoner. These are people who people care about. And
tell me the attorney and stuff, the story, how.
Yeah, no, of course, man. So during the incarceration, before I was able to obtain the legal assistance, it was a very hard battle to try to find someone to believe in me, really. I'm a Latino boy. My parents are immigrants from Mexico. A very modest family, so there was no money to hire some fancy private attorney, and so it was really just I'm not embarrassed to say, but I just had to sort of beg and plead for help, and especially in the circumstances, I definitely needed the help. And so ultimately, a woman who worked there at the prison, at Folsom Prison, where I was housed, Tony Carter, she helped me prove my innocence. Oh, actually, she helped me contact the attorneys who would then help me prove my innocence. So Tony Carter, Ellen Eggers, how's it going? This is Rob, this is me, he's recording me. But yeah, so it took them 5 years. The Innocence Project got involved. a major law firm whose name is Morrison Forster was also involved, and so this amazing legal team came together and made it happen. So yeah.
And afterwards, like, what happens, like, the process of, like, leaving and, like, readjusting?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rob. I mean, it's difficult. I was alive for 16 years of my life before I was incarcerated, and then 20 years. I was actually alive longer in prison than I was as a free boy, now as a free man. So acclimating into society, I might make it look easy, and I'm sure some people who are surprised of how effortless I'm making it, but it's difficult, to come back into a world that in reality I don't really know much about, and so, but it's fun. It's it's exciting. All the opportunities that are available, all the good food to eat, sushi. I love sushi, man.
Cool. We'll be right back after these public service announcements.
How's it going, Rob?
Pretty good.
Good, bro.
They have me take like 2 commercial breaks.
Oh, they
on
do?
Here. Yeah.
Oh, man. Makes sense, dude. That's just what happens,
Hi, I'm Silos from the New Jams Radio Hour.
I'm Utao from Asian Pop Hour.
Hi, I'm Justine from Meet Me on Main Street.
You can help support WPMD.
And it's easy.
Just visit our website, wpmdonthenet.com.
Once you get there, click on the
Biting the microphone
Amazon.com
while
banner near
being
the top of the
recorded.
page.
And that'll take you to
my selfies
Amazon.com.
going
Then
up
just shop like you always do. WPMD will get a percentage of your purchase, and so will the Cerritos College Foundation.
And it won't cost you anything extra.
It's a great way to help WPMD.
And get all those great
What is
bargains
that,
at the
Rob?
same time.
Remember,
So
just
they
go to
had me
wpmdonthenet.com.
Click on the
Yeah.
Amazon
Then I
banner
read the
and start
script, and then
shopping.
I play
It's your
the
way to
other
make a
student
difference
stuff.
for the
Oh,
place
cool.
where people make
Is
a
it different
difference.
every time?
WPMD
Yeah,
on the net.
And
I try
thanks.
not to repeat the same one
We
just because I actually get more when I
appreciate
record.
it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Collections brings you a full scope of artists musically. His hits, flops, key album tracks, live performances, TV appearances, collaborations, demos, even unreleased music. All from the members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's the most complete look of the greatest musical talent you'll find anywhere. Collections, part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, on WPMD on the net, where people make a difference.
It began with 5 words. If not me, then who? The Travis Manion Foundation has taken those 5 words and grown them into a national movement. The Travis Manion Foundation is dedicated to assisting our nation's veterans, families of the fallen, and the next generation of young leaders. It's about remembering the sacrifices of all the men and women who've given their lives for this country and honoring their legacies through service in your own community. It's about adopting the motto, if not me, then who? And applying it to your daily lives like so many others have already done.
All these great things that we live in this beautiful country, it didn't happen because no one chose to serve. Serving should be like in your blood. If not me, then who?
From our 9/11 Heroes Run to putting character to action in your community, discover how you can honor the fallen by challenging the living. Get involved at travismanion.org.
And we are back here on the Falcon Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, here on WPMD Studios, located at Cerritos College in Norwalk, California. And I'm back here with my guest. So, once you were finally out, and tell me when did you make the decision to go to college?
Headphones. Yeah, so I, not too long after I came home, I went to, I applied at LMU, and that must have been about 3 months after I got out. And I was initially a part-time student, and after just a semester of that, I went on full load, and so I became a full-time student, which I'm happy to say that I graduate in about 2 months. So May 7th is my graduation. So it's a pretty cool accomplishment, man. Actually, it's a great accomplishment. for someone, you know, who's been through so much to come home and to achieve that. It's a very personal thing, but I'm really happy.
And tell me about the process when you were going to choose what to major in.
Yeah, you know what, maybe I can preface it by telling you that, you know, when I was in my first couple classes at LMU, the teacher, certain professors would sort of ask the class to introduce themselves and who they are and where they're from, and we know what their major is, and I would always sort of be sort of chuckling in my you know, to myself. I wouldn't sort of laugh out loud, but when I would hear someone say that they're from Minnesota and they're 18 years old and their major is, you know, psychology, because they want to, you know, they have this very clear image of what they want to do with their lives, you know, and I just, for me, it was almost sort of, it was great on one side that they had such a clear goal, but you know, being a 37-year-old freshman, I also realized that there's so much that happens sort of towards your destination that you can't sort of, it's sadly, if you miss out on those specific moments, then, you know, I think it's a life that's, that might be more, it's probably a richer life if you're able to maybe look broader than just one specific destination. And so after about a year, I took a number of classes, and I decided sociology was, sociology is what I'm sort of like really drawn to, and yeah, I'm happy about that. But I think it took me about a year to sort of figure that out.
And you know, most people sometimes they would think once they go to school and if they've had like a break that they hadn't gone to school in a while, they may get stressed and think, oh, well, like it could be overwhelming. Like, what were some coping mechanisms you used to, you know, to try to reintroduce yourself to certain subjects?
Well, you know what, that's another great question, Rob. I think, you know, not only was I not coming straight out of high school and going into a university setting, you know, I was coming straight from prison into a university setting. So, you know, talking about my adjustment sort of techniques are definitely unique. But I think I applied, you know, sort of things that I learned in prison and maybe just in life overall into those critical moments where, you know, the deadline was getting near, or these are subjects I had no like real profound knowledge about. But, you know, I made it very clear at some point in my life as a student that, you know, I was there to learn. You know, the point of, you know, me thinking that I had to sort of bring, you know, this wealth of knowledge with me is a big mistake that people do. I think that, you know, you're there to absorb and be molded and to take in this information. And if that means that there was not much to begin with on a specific topic, then that's okay. So that was definitely sort of like self-motivating to just say, hey, it's going to be okay. You're here to, you know, to learn and sort of not, you know, have to sort of compete with others about what you already know. But I think also beyond that, I think what's really important is to just be, you know, just to, you know, make connections, talk to your professors, have friends who are also in the struggle with you, and, you know, and together, man, you can make it happen. So that's what life's about.
And how about the stress of like midterms and finals?
You know what? I'm all about stress and midterms and you know, and finals, man. I think I thrive on that. You know, there's some people who I think we all do. I think there's a point where the pressure where, you know, things are getting close and deadlines are right around the corner and papers are due. I tend not to want to wait till the last minute, but even if I do, I think that pressure is good for us, and especially like for your future, to be able to work under pressure, but to also to know that, you know, maybe if you needed to work a little bit earlier on your project so you won't have to sort of worry about it the night before. I mean, that's sort of like a life lesson where you say, hey, this is what's happening right now, let me learn from this. And so when I'm a parent, or I'm being employed, or I'm a boss, I understand that, you know, you can't wait.
Now, when did you decide, like afterwards, to like get involved also with community as well? Tell me about the organizations you work with.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. So, you know, I you know, Rob, when I was in prison, I was, you know, a lot of people sort of, even not in prison, it's life, you know, we think about opportunities and all the what ifs, you know, and so one of the things that I talked about was, if I ever come home and prove my innocence, I want to get involved in helping other people out. If it's helping out the overall community, helping out specifically with a certain population, but what I'm really drawn to is the criminal justice system. And so when I came home, I definitely lent my voice and my time and my attention to issues dealing with trying to end the death penalty here in California, dealing with making sure that youth who get in trouble get a fair process during their court proceedings, but also while they're incarcerated. Some of the organizations that I'm involved in, just to name a few, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition is a nonprofit based here in Los Angeles that really does a lot of work to make sure that those who have been incarcerated at different levels, like if it's juvenile hall up to prison, that when they come home, they're able to succeed and not recidivate and go back to prison. So that's one that's really close to my heart. I'm also on the board of the Innocence Project, the organization that helped me get out. So the restorative justice components that I'm involved in as well, here in Los Angeles, and so yeah, they keep me pretty busy.
Cool. Tell me about the Innocence Project. I noticed that they also have a website and stuff.
Yeah, you know what, I think nowadays, man, I think if you're about anything, man, there's a website that's sort of attached to who you are, and so, I love the work that they do. Obviously, because of them was, one of the reasons why I came home, and specifically the Northern California Innocence Project, who are based on the campus of Santa Clara University. And so the Innocence Project are really a group of people, faculty, lawyers, students who and a number of other people who all together collaborate to make sure that claims of innocence are heard, attorneys get involved and to reinvestigate the cases, or maybe investigate it for the first time. There's a lot of visiting prisoners while they're serving their sentence, interviewing family members and making sure that if there is a claim that's legit, that they go and pursue and ultimately find the way to prove their innocence.
And tell me about the benefits also about getting involved with your community.
Yeah, Rob, I think it's one of the things where, I think when you realize that, all of us as an individual, nothing can be done. I mean, it takes literally a village to make things happen, and especially to make things that are worth, being involved in. And so, I do some work with speaking to children at high schools, more sort of grassroots involvement when it comes to just issues that involve parks or involve certain policies and so on. And I mean, I love Lynwood. It's a place that's really close to my heart. I grew up there. I now live sort of close to Dodger Stadium, and so it's a different area, but it's still great, And so if there's things that I can do to sort of help, I definitely try to get involved. And at the same time, I feel that I can't sort of stretch myself too thin. There was a time where you want to be there, you want to help, and you want to lend your voice and your time. But as a family man, as a student, as someone who knows about balance, there definitely has to be a balance.
Now, tell me what it's like to be in a setting of like a board meeting. It must be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. I think being a board member is such a huge responsibility. And it's really one of these things, Rob, that I think about. And I use my example of being wrongfully convicted and going through a trial and having to be there in front of attorneys and judges and members of the community there, where one of my things that I've always sort of complained about is that there must have been people, and I'm certain about this, that there were people who must have noticed that there was a problem with my case. Something wasn't looking right, something wasn't adding up, but they just said, you know what, let somebody else worry about that. And so when I'm at these board meetings, and I try to do this in my life on a daily basis, but especially in these board meetings, there's a responsibility that you've been given to make sure that when you see something that's not right, that you speak up You know, you speak out, and you if it's calling somebody on what's happening, or it's to correct something, or even to applaud some work that's being done, like that has to be why you're there. And so yeah, I think it's an honor to be tapped on the shoulder and asked to be part of these organizations. And so I do a lot of lobbying in Sacramento. I do some work in D.C., but mainly it's here in California. So yeah, it's a great thing to be involved in your community.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just tuning in, there's if you're walking by Cerritos College right now, there's an event going on here at Falcon Square. I see quite a bit of activity here. You guys should check out the information booths out there.
I don't even go here, man, but afterwards I'm gonna stop by and see what's happening. Get a pamphlet or something, you know?
Yeah, I see right now. I see a crown. There's the homecoming queen actually out there right now.
I think my son used to go to the school, by the way, just to kind of. I mean, it's a great campus, right, Rob?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a big campus too.
It's a huge. I mean, the parking lot is so amazing, man. But it took for me forever to find your office, by the way.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. When a person starts like at college, tell me about your first day. What was it like? I know people could be overwhelmed and be like, "Oh, I can't find places."
Yeah, you know what? It's I have to say, man, like Google Maps. I have an Android. I'm not embarrassed to say that. Google Maps helped me so much, man. I don't have to stop and ask everybody, "Hey, where's?" Like I asked you, man, "Where's the bathroom?" Right? I could have mapped that. But when my first day of school. Luckily for me, man, I had someone there who was sort of chaperone, like a chaperone who was sort of showing me around. And I was just a part-time student, so I only had a couple classes. And I don't know if you've ever been to LMU, but it's a beautiful campus, and it's probably the same size as probably Cerritos College. And so, I think I was okay. Yeah, I didn't get lost too bad.
And After college, what do you want to do?
Oh man, after college, so I'm gonna graduate. That's a good question, Rob, because it's gonna be over in a few months, man. So I want to take a small break, maybe do a little bit of traveling, and go back and get a master's program, get a master's degree in marriage family therapy. So be like an art therapist. I really feel that with my experience as being incarcerated, but also being exonerated. I have a very unique sort of like position to be able to help. For me, I feel like there's a lot of people, especially in the community, either gang members or former gang members, or people maybe sort of moving in that direction that I would love to work with. I think it's a community that maybe it's underserved. It's a community that normally maybe doesn't want to talk or want to see a therapist, but I think because of its status or my background or reputation, I think people might feel comfortable with me opening up and sharing. And so, there's always one of these things, man, where, I look back at my own life and I feel, where were the voids in my life? Where were the voices that maybe could have helped me either encourage me, empower me, guide me. And so I think it's my responsibility, all of our responsibilities, that when we become adults, that we don't just sort of live a selfish life. We should be sort of open to service and helping other people. And
for our audience that aren't aware, like let's say for example, like when veterans they get out of the service and they have a hard time like looking for a job, and they got their type of services, and like let's say for example, people also like they left another part of life, like they turn things around and stuff, that there's like organizations for them as well to try to help them like land a job as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, and this is maybe pretty extreme here, but I think my belief is that if you really want it, man, if it's a job, if it's some girl's number, or if it's the new car, the old car, whatever it is, you set your mind to. If you really do need it and want it for the right purposes, and it's going to make your life better and grander, then you'll make it happen, And sometimes, if people need motivation to kind of get them to that way of thinking, that's a different topic. But I think that You know, I think of myself where I was a young boy sentenced to life in prison, who had no resources, who had no equity in society, who no one even knew really. I was so young to really make any mark before I was wrongfully incarcerated. To believe that I was someday going to prove that the criminal justice system wronged me, that the Constitution that was used against me was done in a way that was such an error, you know, this mistake that occurred, and that the Lynwood sheriffs, specifically these Vikings who used to patrol the city, that they were corrupt. You know, that I was going to someday be victorious, and to prove that would be like, yeah, Frankie, you're dreaming, you know. But I believed in it, and it happened. So if I would have sort of had this defeatist mindset that, you know what, hey, no one's going to believe me anyway because, you know, I'm nobody, and, you know, no one cares about me, then I would literally still be there.
And what is this Viking group?
Yeah, you know, Rob, so I was raised in Lynwood. You know, I became maybe I was like back then it was called junior high school. I went to Hustler, so this is maybe 86, 87. So that was my sort of when I sort of learned about the Lynwood Vikings. And so the Lynwood Vikings were a neo-Nazi, basically a racist sheriff gang. It wasn't all the deputies, but it was a lot of the deputies that were assigned to the station there, who were involved in really gang behavior. So they were killing people, they were falsifying reports, they were you know, releasing dogs on people, they were beating people up, all the things that we as a community don't want law enforcement to be associated with. Unfortunately, these people were doing that, and so the people that were involved in investigating my case when this crime happened, they were part of this Viking gang, and so it's been proven, they've admitted that they're Vikings, and there's been federal charges that were brought up against them, that they were really not there to protect and serve, and they were really just you know, making matters much worse when the people who are there to you know, when there's an emergency or the people need help, you know, and especially in Lynwood, the deputy sheriffs were the ones who were causing the havoc in the city. You know, talk about, you know, what a mess it was, you know. And
did that group disband, or?
You know what? There's I don't think so. I think it maybe it disbanded in a way. So this is what I'm really referring to. That the heart of it was over 20 years ago, but a lot of those people were promoted, and so maybe it disbanded, but it didn't go away. And so those who were hardcore Vikings are now maybe teaching the new deputies how to be officers, or they're, you know, not commissioned, but they're like, you know, in higher positions throughout the sheriff's department. And so I think it's never really fully been addressed. I think that this sort of gang mentality continues, and it's unfortunate. And so one of the things that I want to focus on is to make sure that these officers don't abuse their power, you know. And if it's about getting a mental evaluation before they're hired, if it's about demanding that they get a higher education before they're patrolling the streets, there's a number of answers. But, you know, sadly, you know, me and a lot of other people, there's actually 5 or 6 young men now who have been also victims of the Vikings, who are out of Lynwood, who have been entangled into these crimes that they had nothing to do with. And so it's not just one issue. It's not just me. There's cases before me and there's cases after me where we can see the dirty work of these specific deputies.
And so tell me, once the exoneration process happened, you got to talk to like the media and stuff, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You know what? Rob, it's funny, man. So my first real like experience as a free man, you know, the first thing that sort of happened was, you know, all these cameras rushing me like a TMZ moment, you know, and all the mics are in my face, and they're like, you know, how does it feel to be free, man? Like what level of anger are you existing in, and like all these weird questions, you know. But you know, it was, I think I was even maybe laughing, or I was definitely happy I was free, but it was sort of like one of those moments where it's like, you've just won the Super Bowl, tell me how you feel. Like it happened too quick, you know. It was like I was like out for like not even a second, you know, and that was happening. But you know what I can remember saying on my first interview, Rob, is that I don't want to be mad. Like I want to be positive because I've always been optimistic in my life, even though I was wrongfully imprisoned. But people who are watching this, people who are even today who are listening to me today on your radio show, man, who say like, that's terrible, man. Like how could this happen to anyone? Like you as a voter, you as a concerned citizen should say, we can't allow this anymore. We cannot stand silent for the next story about someone who was trampled on by the criminal justice system just because somebody wanted a conviction or just because somebody wanted an arrest. And so that was the gist of what I said then, and so after all I've been through, the last thing that people should sort of expect from me is to be angry and mad, and I don't want to be that guy, and I'm not that guy. And so, but people should be up in arms, man, and really either look into this Viking scandal, if it's voting for the right people, because it starts at that level as well, But moving on from that first interview, I've been on great, TV shows, radio shows like yours, Rob, a number of things that I've been involved in that it's an honor, man. It's an honor for a guy like me whose voice was taken away for 20 years, maybe my entire life, even as a young boy. I didn't really feel I had like a voice and I had sort of a say in my community. To go through all of that and to come home and to now feel empowered and feel that, I'm that kid from Lynwood who grew up in the 80s there, but you know what? I count too, I count too, and there's kids who are in Lynwood right now who might feel that they're empowered in any other city in Los Angeles, or as far as this our sort of voices or internet voices taking us right now, man. But people need to believe in themselves and to know that what they think and their opinions matter. And so, that's the way it goes, man.
I remember I had like an instructor grade back many years ago. Not here, but I think he had said that he was in prison and he got to learn this like fancy cursive and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Tell me about the activities and stuff.
Yeah, I think the fancy cursive is I think either well, it's sort of funny, but when I was a kid, Rob, they would teach you how to write in this fancy writing, so it's just cursive writing. I don't know if they still teach that in elementary school anymore, but I can remember, going there and they show you how to do this, right? And then you're in prison, so you sort of build off that. It kind of gets fancier, but you sort of have the basics, the basic know-how. I like to work out, man. So prison seems to be a place where guys work out, and men and women. There's obviously women in prison as well. Love playing handball. I'm not sure if they have a handball court here at Cerritos College. If there is, I might go after the show and play a couple games. We'll see if there's anyone there. But I love to read, man. I love to read. I love to, it's funny, man, that in prison life sort of moves at such a slow pace that I can sort of remember literally seeing myself evolve into a man, have my thoughts.